All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's open forum. Today we have a training on writing the offer the seller actually wants, how to represent your buyer to the best of your ability, get your buyer everything they want, and get the seller to actually accept your offer. Um, let's just get into this. I've lots to say on this, but let's just get into this. The offer strategy playbook, how to write the offer the seller actually wants. Strongest offer is not always the highest offer. You guys know that. You guys have done both listing and sales, and buyer representation, selling side, selling side. It's so confusing. You work for the seller, but you're on the selling side. You're on the listing side, and then the buyer's rep is on the selling side. How many of you guys just work with buyers? Any of you guys work with both? Let's say, anybody work with both buyers and sellers fairly evenly? Let me know fairly evenly, more buyers than sellers, more sellers than buyers. Let me know that in the chat. Ever does both? Let me know in the chat what you guys are doing. And the reason I want to know this, Everett, do you have a comment, Everett? All right. So more buyers than sellers. Great. Both. Awesome. Thank you, Wendy, Malvis. Diana does both. Awesome. So you guys know what both sides are like. You guys are here's what I want you guys to do. And the bottom line here is be a professional, do something that the buyers can't do for themselves and the sellers can't do for themselves. Talk, open dialogue. If those of you who have listings, do you want to sell it? Do you know what your sellers want? Every time I have a listing, I know what my sellers want. Right? You do. You have that conversation with them. If you sit through a listing appointment, you better be asking these questions, right? A listing consultation, you better be asking, what do you guys want? What's the most important thing to you? And we're going to get into different scenarios as we go along. But knowing what your seller's hot button is allows you to communicate that to the buyer's agent. And if you're a buyer's agent, communicate with the listing agent. What is the seller looking for? Don't just send an offer what your buyer wants. Talk to them. I have lots of listings. I've done hundreds of listings over the years. Do you know how many times people have called me and said, what's your seller really looking for? What's most important to your seller? I can count on one hand the conversations I've had where somebody says, maybe two hands, where somebody says, what does your seller actually want? What's most important to them? Guys, that is beautiful buyer representation. That's exactly what buyers should be getting. And it saves time. It's a time saver too. If we're both price happens to be what we both care about the most, then and my seller's price is not near what their buyer's price is, then fine, there's no deal, and we know that. So if Malvis is representing a buyer and Malvis calls me and says, what's most important to your seller, is that my seller has to get $489 for this house. They've got to, for whatever reason, maybe they're focused on the net, maybe they're focused on that, whatever. But the bottom line is they got to get $489, and we'll talk about different scenarios in that too. But Malvis says, well, all my buyers can do is $460. Okay, well, good luck to you, Malvis. And she'll say, good luck to me. And we move on. There's just no deal there. But if we have two different things that are important to us, and we're going to get into all this, we have two different things that are important to us, let's have that conversation. And yeah, my seller is not that focused on the price. They've already bought another house. They have to be out by the end of October, let's say, whatever month it is. Then Malvis knows that, says, oh, well, my lender says they can close quickly if you guys can come down to in the 460s, right? So we might have a deal here that we wouldn't have otherwise, because otherwise she'd just send me an offer for 460 and I'd say no. All right, so the seller comes back at 480, right? So let's talk about things. There's no harm in communication. It's only for the best for everyone. So the strongest offer isn't always the highest offer. Our job is to discover what the seller values, then help the buyer compete intelligently. Because you are competing with other buyers. It may not be 10 of you at once like there used to be, but there'll be one this week and there'll be one next week because there was one last week that didn't work out. So the seller knows there'll be more. Also depends on where the seller is in their timing. But let's go on with this. All right. The buyers want the best deal. Why this is important. Buyers want the best deal. Sellers want the best outcome. Price matters, but so do certainty, timing, convenience, risk. How many times have you guys talked to a seller and said, you know what, this looks great, but this looks great. I'm gonna stop here for a second. The link in the chat, can you forward the email I sent you? If you can do that, that'll get her in here. I sent her an email. I don't know. I mean, she lost it. Okay. But if somebody can just forward that email to her. I don't have the chat link here. Okay.
I was trying to, but I couldn't because I have to get off the meeting to be able to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to get out of this presentation to do it. So
Okay.
if somebody could get the link and put it in the chat, that would be great. Okay, the buyers want the best deal, sellers want the best outcome. Price matters, but so certainty, timing, convenience, and risk. So how many of you guys have talked to a seller and said, you know what, this offer does look good, but be careful because they're doing it through a Bank of America or Rocket Mortgage, one of these things that aren't always closing. You know, and we'll get into that. Let's get into it now. How many of you guys have ever warned? Give me some kind of emoji or something if you've ever warned a seller about a deal that might not close based on the lender. You guys ever done that? Thank you, Kim, for posting that in there. Yeah, you guys have advised your sellers against taking certain offers because of the lender, or because how many of you done it because of the type of loan? You didn't trust the type of loan, or you've downplayed maybe a 5% conventional versus a 20% conventional. Which one sounds better? Especially in a seller's market, it definitely sounds better, the 20%, because that appraisal doesn't come in and you know that they probably got some cash to cover it. But that guy who's doing 5% and he's getting, he wants 3% concession, he's doing a 5% loan, or he's FHA with 3% back or something like that. The types of loans matter. And yeah, you can say, oh, we should treat FHA, VA the same, but you know that there are certain things that make it more difficult to get an FHA or VA loan done from a seller standpoint. They have to make the repairs, et cetera, as opposed to doing concessions. They have to do this. So there's all kinds of things that make it one loan different from another loan, one offer different from another offer besides the obvious price. Two offers with the same price can look completely different to a seller. Of course, great buyers agents negotiate before they write the offer. Talk to people before you write the offer. Just find out what's important to them. Would they even consider this? Would they even consider that? I mean, go ahead and write. Don't be lazy and just don't write the offer unless you got everything worked out. But find out what's important to the seller before you send the offer. How many of you guys have talked to a listing agent? How many of you guys talked to a listing agent before you written an offer? I mean, talk to them besides about where to send the offer, what's the title company, et cetera. How many of you talk deal points to find this kind of stuff out? You have. How many of you do it every time? Okay, we got a few that do it every time. That is awesome. Great job. So you negotiate, you find out what their hot point is, their hot buttons are before you write the offer. You're saving everybody a bunch of time. Sounds like. Okay, price, how much? Certainty, how likely is this deal to close? Timing, when does the seller want to be done? These are all things that stop asking what price. How easy will this transaction be? What could cause, and that's where we're talking about, sometimes we're talking about FHA and VA, we're talking about how easy will it be? An easy transaction is one where you and you guys know this, you love these transactions. They're nice and easy when the seller says, the buyer comes back and says, I want this fixed. And the seller says, how about you take $2,500 and see you later, right? Easy deal, one addendum. We don't have to worry about reinspection. We don't have to worry about meeting the buyer's expectations and requirements and stuff for these things, for the repairs. Licensed and when they ask for a licensed and insured person to do a job that a handyman can do, right? That kind of thing. What could cause this deal to fall apart? What does the seller? What could cause a deal to fall apart? When I have a $440,000 listing and Malvis brings me an offer for $460,000 with $20,000 back to her buyer. What is the red flag there? It's probably not going to appraise, right? And then we're going to be right back here. We just wasted 25 days, and we're right back here to where we got to go get back down to 448, what it appraised for, and then I can give her a little bit of money, right? So, and then that whole deal falls apart because the buyer needed all that money to close. Let's get that stuff out early. The net, what does the seller actually walk away with? A lot of sellers, I want to contrast the net and the price because we talked about that a little bit earlier. In the net, now we're talking about what they walk away with. I talked about concessions. We're talking about everything else. But you would be surprised. Well, a lot of you won't be surprised because you've seen this. How many sellers care about that price more than they care about the net? They want the price that their neighbor got, no matter what. That's just what they feel like they deserve. And their neighbor 3 houses down did it, and they didn't even like the way they closed off that one room. I didn't like their half wall in the living room. I didn't like this and that, right? And so my house is better than theirs. If they got 489, I'm getting 489. Some people, that's what they want. It's crazy, but that's what a hot button is, something that's important to one person and not as important to someone else. And so we try to make those fit and match. If the price, and you've talked to listing agents or you've been the listing agent before, when you talk to them and say, they're just dead set on 489 for this house, just dead set on that. Well, what if I did, I might be able to do that if I get some concessions toward closing costs. Oh, they'd be open to that. It's like, oh, okay, right? So it's interesting, but that's human nature, and that's what makes this business work. That's what makes you the professional. Okay, the first negotiation. Your first negotiation is often with the listing agent before your buyer ever signs the offer. Information creates leverage. That's where we've been, and that is the information. Why do you not want all the information about the seller? Why do you not want all the information about what's going to make the seller sign this contract? Then you can cheat in other areas that the seller doesn't care about. They're not watching that. They're watching the price. They're not watching all this other stuff go on. It's like when you're watching a magic show, the guy's got you distracted over here. He's doing everything over here, right? So that's the same for that. All they care about is this price. All they care about is getting it out of here by the end of August, because we've already bought a new house and we've got to be out of here so we don't do, right? So I need to do it to qualify for this so I don't lose my deposit for the new house. All right, what is the most important to the seller besides price? Call the listing agent before you write. Is there a preferred closing date? And obviously you guys will, and I love that you will call the listing agent and say, how flexible are they on this price? How motivated are they? Right. And the listing agent can't tell you, but you can get, they'll work with somebody, right. Or they'll say that they want 489. I don't care. Right. Is there a preferred closing date? What do they, they'd like to close by, so just as soon as possible. And this is somebody maybe only cares about the price, right? Well, they close as soon as possible. Does the seller need post-closing occupancy? I hate this, but maybe they do. And maybe we can get a cheaper deal because of that. Any concerns about financing, appraisal, or inspection? Find out up front. Well, we did this, because if you know that it's going to need a new septic tank, it's going to need a new roof, it's going to need this or that, well, then we're going to offer less. We're not making a full price offer and then coming back and fighting you on this stuff later, right? Well, we know it needs a water heater and a this and a that, right? Are there existing offers, and can you share anything about their strength? That's not a super big deal right now. Obviously, it's not it's leaning toward a buyer's market right now, but can you share if are there any existing offers? You do get asked that a lot, because people don't want, mostly lazy agents who don't want to waste their time writing a contract for something that their buyer can't get, or they know they're going to write a weak contract. If you ask me that as a listing agent, I'm going to assume that it's either in the first week of this listing and I might have an offer, or I'm going to assume that your offer is going to be weak, but that's okay. Surprise me. Is there anything that would make our offer easier for your seller to accept? That is a great open-ended question. Completely easier for your seller to accept. That is great. What a great question that is. Is there anything that make our offer? Because now you're saying that I might not have broached the subject in any of these questions I had up here. Might not have covered it. Is there anything else? And you'd be surprised the stuff that people say. There you go. What would make your offer really attractive to your seller? Then listen. Don't negotiate against yourself. That is a huge deal when you ask questions. Listen. That they will tell you more things than you want, especially in this market, especially property that's been on the market for 64 days or 98 days or something like that. Listen, they want to get this. You guys have 98-day-old listings. What do you want? Just give me an offer. Give me something for my seller to look at. Give me something good. I will tell you more than I should probably about how to make the seller take this offer. Okay. All right. The seller's hot buttons. Obviously the price, the highest possible number. That's going to be your most common, obviously, with the net, but mostly the price. The fewest concessions, strongest bottom line. Speed, quickest closing. Time, longer closing or occupancy, because they need that. Sometimes they want a short one. Sometimes they want more time. You guys have all had clients who want this stuff. Especially, you tell them, oh, you want to be out of here by the end of the year. We better put it on the market beginning of October. Well, you put it on the market at beginning of October and you get 3 offers the first week. And now you've got to tell people, well, look, we can't close until the end of the year, right? Or we can close before that, but we need post-closing occupancy. All right. Certainty, strong financing and clean terms. Obviously, we love that. So we want to know, the listing agent, ask what kind of loan is it going to be before you, if you're on the listing side or the buyer side, find out these other things first before you do that. Are we going to need to make a bunch of repairs here? Anything we should know about the house? If so, we don't want to offer as much, right? And on the other side, what kind of loan if I'm the listing agent, what kind of loan are you guys doing before I start telling you that we can lower the price or we can do anything else, or we might be flexible on this or that? I want to know what kind of loan this is. Is this a strong buyer? And you guys, with the ones I have talked to about this, oh, it's a really strong buyer. And guys, I will tell you as a listing agent, when a buyer's agent calls and talks to you and tells and builds up your client, you remember the old love letters that we're not supposed to do anymore, but they do a verbal one. They say, oh, this is this is a single mom and she's blah, blah, blah. They're stuff they're not supposed to tell me anyway, but because it gives away certain classes and stuff like that. But they do that, right? And they do it verbally and they tell you these things. And she's super strong buyer, got great credit, strong buyer, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to build up that certainty for me, right? And so I feel good presenting this to my seller. And if I have 2 offers, and typically if you tell them, yeah, I am expecting another offer on this. Somebody called me before and said they're going to submit an offer. Now you guys do that. That doesn't count, by the way, letting someone know you're going to submit an offer. Oh, the clients loved it. We're going to submit an offer. You didn't ask me anything. Don't count that as when I ask you, did you talk to the listing agent? And when you said the thing about submitting an offer, what's your commission? That's not talking to me about how to get a deal done. Okay. So, but that's typically what happens. And so I'll say, when I say it's happened a handful of times over the years, I mean actually finding out what the seller wants, not just telling me there's an offer on the way. And what's your commission? I'm talking about finding out how the deal's actually going to work. Okay, price is only one lever. You guys probably don't need a list of these things, but here you go. Some people want a big deposit. People have been hurt. And this is the thing, guys. This is personal. Selling is personal. Yes, it's just business, but we're involved because it's personal too. So earnest money deposit. Have you guys ever had a client who cares about earnest money deposit? Anybody? Vivian, Malvis is nodding her head. Great, thank you. I know there's more of you than that. You're just not participating, and that's okay. So, Michelle, thank you. Yes. And why is that? Why does a layperson who barely even remembers making the deposit on the house when they bought it, why do they care about earnest money deposit? Yeah, just a few, Kim. And you know why? Because these are people that have been burnt and had to go after the deposit, and there wasn't enough deposit, and their last listing agent had to tell them, it's not really worth going after. It's only $2,000. And by the time we fight it, there's not going to be anything over to fight over, blah, blah, blah. Let's just split it. Right. And the answer to that is bigger deposit. And nowadays, guys, you know what else, guys? You can't get away with being a crappy agent these days because they ask AI everything. Some of you guys talk to AI about everything. I know a young lady who puts her whole life into AI, everything that happens to her relationships with people, everything else, she puts it in there, and AI gives her comments or suggestions on everything, right? That's a lot to put in there. But I'm too personal, even though I know it doesn't care about me at all. But they're going to do that. They're going to say, what went wrong with this deal? Why, can I ask for more earnest money? And AI is going to tell them, absolutely, you should have your agent negotiate more earnest money, because that's a hot button for some people, because they've been left at the altar a few times, or maybe they've recovered $2,000. Maybe they didn't have to fight over this money, but they recovered $2,000 for having their $800,000 house off the market for a month and a half, right? And we gave extensions, and there was only $2,000 there. And then they have to give extensions because what am I going to do? Collect $2,000 or wait another couple of weeks? Yeah, Carolina used ChatGPT, of course. Okay, financial type and strength, that will also be important to some sellers. It should be important to you because you're going to get the deal done. That you should educate them on why it's important. The financing type and strength. I've had to tell sellers, look, I'm going to go back in for more earnest money, and had to educate them on why. Right? Because I'll have people put 1%. I'm not taking 1% typically. Unless the only time you'll take a smaller one, if it's VA or whatever, they don't have a lot of money, or they're not showing that they have to have a lot. They don't have to have a lot of money for this closing. I'm not going to make a VA person put $10,000 down when the whole reason they're probably going VA was so they didn't. And they just get that money back at closing or whatever. So financing type and strength, you educate your people on why that's important. Most of them don't care as much unless they've had deals back out on them before. Down payment cash position, That's what I'm most worried about. If I know that we're getting close to appraisal on this, or maybe even over appraisal, I'm going to worry about that. Inspection period. They've been burnt before. They've had 15-day inspection periods and people cancel on the 14th day. If your seller cares about that, that's probably what it is. Or they've heard something or whatever. And a lot of these are just people who've heard about their friends having these same issues. Repair expectations. There's nothing worse than getting beaten up and somebody giving you a good offer. You get all excited about it. Your seller's all excited about it. And then when it comes to their inspection and asking for repairs, you knew that they were trying to do this to you the whole time. You knew that they came in with a strong offer so they could beat you up during the inspection the whole time. If you're the buyer's agent on that, I hate you. Don't ever do business with me again. I can't stand that if I don't feel like it's legitimate. Appraisal exposure. You're worried about it appraising. The closing date, obviously that's important. Seller concessions, they're asking for too much or whatever it is. Seller concessions are too high. They don't want to do a bunch of seller concessions. Occupancy kind of goes along with the closing date. Contingencies, too many contingencies. Look, Malvis, that 489 house, she gives me an offer for 489. I love it. She gives it to me on the third day of this listing. I get this the first weekend she showed it, and she gives me a full price offer, but she's got a sale of buyer's property contingency. And then Kim gives me an offer the same day for 480 instead of 489. Which one am I likely to take? I want to work with Kim. Yeah, I want to work with the one without the buyer's contingency. That is a huge one, contingencies. Flexibility. Wendy had somebody ask for a light bulb change. They'll do that. They'll just say, and I also, by the way, I also hate you if you just put, for your repair request, you just put the pages and points from your report. Don't do that. Tell them what you actually want and be reasonable about it. Don't ask for light bulb changes, stuff like that. Oh, Eric, I love this. I'm actually advising someone right now. Can you say up front that there will be no repairs selling as is? It's an as is contract. Of course, they don't have to make repairs, but absolutely, if you're the listing agent, go ahead and tell them, do not try to beat me up at the repair. My seller has replaced the roof. She's replaced the air conditioner. She's repainted the house. She's replaced the carpets. Do not ask for anything else. I don't care if the AC is old. I don't care if the water heater's old. Look, you guys are getting a great deal. It's an as is. All this other stuff has been done for you. The Taylor Morrison's right down the street if you want a new house, right? Just not going to get the price. You're not going to get what you're getting here and the terms that you're getting here. So absolutely, you can tell them that. You can set those expectations, and you will run some people off. And good, if that was their strategy, goodbye. Because if you give me a new roof, everything but a new AC and a new water heater and blah, 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 but you've done everything else, what do I want? Right? That's as well as I'm going to do. Unless there's a huge problem or something, but then I'm backing out anyway if there's a huge problem. Okay, flexibility and simplicity. That is wonderful. Those are the best ones. Obviously, that's cash deal. You guys love cash deals. Everybody loves cash deals because there's no appraisal. Right now, appraisal is not a big of a problem, but 4 years ago, that would have been a big deal. All right. Earnest money, a signal, not just a deposit. May feel less committed to a seller with a small earnest money. A stronger one can demonstrate confidence and commitment. How much risk should the buyer reasonably take? The question, how much risk should the buyer reasonably take? If the buyer's agent is on the ball, the buyer's not going to be at risk at all, right? If the lender is on the ball and the buyer's agent are on the ball, they should not be. So what does that tell you? If I'm the buyer's agent and we're going to make a reasonably good EMD, a strong EMD, I'm telling you that we're committed. I'm telling you we're capable, right? My buyer can pull out 10 grand, no problem, can wire 10 grand over. They're not broke, counting on every last dime. They're less likely to get turned down by their lender because they're probably a little bit stronger. They can pay their bills. They don't have a bunch of, they're not living paycheck to paycheck typically. So that tells me, it demonstrates all kinds of strength, right? And commitment. But better yet, a small one is the opposite of that. So more so than getting excited because there's a big EMD, you get unexcited, you get turned off by a smaller EMD. And you're going to talk to your seller about that. If you're worth your salt as a listing agent, you're going to talk to your seller about that and say, that's one thing we're going to counter. I counter those a lot because I want something in the pot in case there's a problem when it backs out. So an experienced agent is going to counter that quite often. Cash is not automatically better, but fewer financing variables can feel safer. Fewer financing variables are better. A strong pre-approval is better than a vague pre-qualification. By the way, a cash buyer who wants an appraiser and wants an appraisal is a strange animal, but that's someone who doesn't trust their buyer's agent, doesn't trust anything in life, and they want an appraisal just to make sure that they're not going to feel like a fool. People's biggest fear is to feel like a fool. Fear of loss is stronger than hope of gain. Your biggest fear is feeling like you missed out on something or that you've been played for a fool. And a cash buyer who pays too much for something is going to feel that way. So they'll want to do that, but that's because they don't trust their agent typically. A responsive, credible lender can strengthen the buyer story, obviously. And I get love letters from lenders too. And not love letters, but strength letters. I have a very strong buyer, this buyer, and I think that's brilliant from lenders to do that, loan officers to do that. Down payment size can affect perceived financing risk. Absolutely. Call the lender before the offer if you need to verify strength and timing. You can do that. They're talking about on the buyer side. Listing agent can do that as well, and sometimes they will. So it's good to talk to their lender before. Never promise what the lender cannot deliver. That's a tough one. The lender promises what the lender can't deliver sometimes. So it's hard not to go off of that. And sometimes we just had a lender close or ready to close, clear to close in 13 days. So that happens sometimes, but other times they'll tell you 30 and they're not ready, and they're not ready at 37 or 44 days. So you're going to have to promise what the lender says they can do. But if they're promising, then there's nothing you can do about that. If you didn't guide them to that lender, they came with their own lender. Okay. Inspection, think beyond days. 10 days, more time for the buyer, potentially more uncertainty for seller. 5 to 7, often a workable middle ground. I love 7 days right now. I think that's the right amount. I think 5 is always a little too short, but inspectors, again, 4 or 5 years ago, inspectors needed 15 days because they were so busy. Nowadays, they're not that busy. They can get out there the next day, the day after that. At the most, you have the report in 3 days. 5 to 7 days. I mean, then you throw in weekends and stuff like that because they count in this calculation. So 5 to 7 days is great. 7's fine. Don't kill your client with 5 days. Shorter can be attractive only when the buyer can perform responsibly. Like right now, you can. Okay, the inspection conversation with your buyer. How quickly can we get inspectors scheduled? What's the buyer's? Right now, we know what they are. A day or two. Some of them get out there. If I call them right now, they'll get out there today. How quickly can we get inspectors and scheduled? What is the buyer's tolerance for condition issues? Are we buying a newer home or property likely to need investigation? They all need investigation. But is it a newer home, or is it something that's going to take more? Like we're going to have to get a bunch of we can predict with some homes. If this thing was built in 1978. I can tell you we're probably going to need some estimates on something if we have problems, right? If it has a septic tank, we're going to probably need an investigation into that, right? An inspection of the sewage tank. So we're going to, septic tank. So we're going to need those things. Would shortening the period meaningfully improve the offer? If it's something you can throw 15 days out there, I think it looks weak. I would throw 10 days out there right now and see if they come back at 7. They're probably not going to, if the rest of the offer looks pretty good. But sometimes an agent will just show that they want to negotiate something, so they'll come down to 7 days or whatever on that. That's fine, and that's probably something that you should have found out before, because you should have asked, what's the seller's hot button? And then you can say, my seller is sick and tired of people tying this thing up under inspection and asking for a bunch of repairs that they don't want to make, right? Well, okay. Well, we're going to offer a little bit less maybe, and then we won't ask for repairs. We'll just back out if there's a problem. But if you tell me what the problems are now, we can work with that. So never give away protection just to make an offer look pretty. Always protect your client just to make an offer look pretty. Find out if that's important for the seller. Don't do it just because you can. Don't do a 5-day inspection when the seller never told you that they care about a 5-day inspection. 7 to 10 days is fine. Okay. Closing date. Find the seller's calendar. What's important for the seller on time? The seller buying another home, and they may need time. They may want, especially a vacant investment property or something, they may want speed, or a property they've moved out of. They don't want to make 2 mortgage payments. Maybe they need that money to close on their new house. A vacant property seller may want speed. A seller moving out of state may value certainty more than a few $1,000s. I would rather get, this is so important, guys. I need, some sellers we have, more than people think, are more concerned with, is this a strong offer? Am I going to have to go through this process again? Because I've got to get out of here, right? A flexible buyer can sometimes beat a higher offer simply by solving a timing problem. A flexible buyer can sometimes beat a higher offer simply by solving a timing problem. I want to go back to this up here a little bit. Never put your, and I talk to you guys about this with sales all the time, never put your own values on other people. Don't project your values on everyone else. Your financial situation is not the same as everyone else, especially if you're used to doing like first-time home buyers or something, and then you get a first-time home buyer you had 7 years ago who's now buying a $900,000 house, right? They've done great with their career in the last 7 years since you sold them that house. They've grown their family, they've grown their careers. They want to buy a $900,000 house, and you're used to selling $300,000 houses. This few $1,000s that you're worried about, somebody's moving out of, a doctor's moving out of Lake Nona and moving up to Atlanta for their new job. They're not going to fight over this kind of stuff that you fight over on a $350,000 house, right? They're going to walk, $10,000 doesn't mean this much to them. Okay. They got to get going. I've got to start my new job. I don't want 2 mortgage payments, right? So don't get your values confused. Don't project them onto other people. And maybe you do great. Maybe you're a great agent. You kill it. You're rich on your own by whatever means, and you do really well. And that's awesome. And you don't care about $10,000 here and there, but now you're working with a first-time home buyer and every penny counts, right? So don't put your values onto your clients or the other side. So a lot of times we get worried about a few $1,000s. Oh no, my client's going to lose it. No, they don't care as much. Just give me that good offer. You're going to say, I got you $898. Well, that $875 cash looks really good to me, right? Okay. So there's different things. Don't put, and you got to find that out from your seller. And as the buyer's agent, you got to find that out. Ask before assuming sooner is better. Don't always think a quick close. You know, we're going to put in this offer and we're going to make it a little bit low. My clients really want this house. But they want it, a little bit cheaper, but we're going to put in we can close really quickly. Our lender's all over this. He says we're all set to go. We close really quickly without talking to the listing agent. They don't care if it's quickly. They don't need to get out of this house for 2 more months. Okay. So don't just assume that's what everybody wants, a few $1,000 more and to close as soon as possible. Sometimes that's not what's important to people. Okay. Occupancy can be a powerful lever. Yes, it's a pain. You guys, every house besides first-time home buyers, even first-time home buyers, because they have leases they're coming out of. But is it a little tricky when somebody's doing a little move up? They're moving out of one house into another, and we got to make those dates work. And then we get extensions and stuff like that. It throws off everything. Occupancy is a very strong tool. And that's where you say, you know what, we have the ability to own 2 houses at one time as we're going through this process for a month. So if you guys need a few extra weeks, if we have an issue, you guys can stay. That kind of thing, just offering that to people who, if I know that your client has to be out of town at a certain time and has to move for a job in another city, then they may need to go, or they may need to stay, or they may need whatever. We don't know. So let's find that out. Post-closing occupancy might solve their moving problem. Could the buyer accommodate that safely and contractually? Obviously, have an attorney draw this stuff up for you, because that seller stays in that house and then they break their neck and falling into the pool the next 2 weeks later, and they're sued the buyer, right? So you can't have that. Make sure you're still covered with insurance and everything else. Coordinate again appropriate agreements, deposits, insurance, and brokerage guidance. Convenience has value, sometimes a real negotiating value. All right. Let's look at the net. $500,000 with no credit. Seller sees a clean $500,000 price before other costs. 510 with a 10K credit. Same rough gross economics, but appraisal and financing may matter. That's where we talk about appraisal. We can't just go, they want a bunch of cash. We can't just go 525 with 25 back. Obviously, if we can, I didn't do a great job listing this house for 500 when it was worth 525 to start with. That's not a conversation I want to have with my seller. You think it'll appraise at 525? Yeah, sure. Well, why do I list it at 500? Right. So the headline price is not the whole offer. Now that being said, I might have it listed for 525, and they want to do 525 with 25 back, then my seller just know, and that's not an uncommon thing. Just so my seller knows this, I've already had this conversation with my seller. Look, the best we're going to do is get close to appraisal here, typically, because this is going to be 500,000. There's going to be a loan on this house, most likely, and we're going to try to get as close to appraisal as possible. Well, if I give you 25,000 back, we're not getting within 25,000 of appraisal automatically. So headline price is not the whole offer. Appraisal risk, the hidden offer killer, right? High price is less impressive if the seller fears it will not appraise. Don't just come in and do willy-nilly if it's not going to appraise. And I'm getting a VA loan or whatever, and I am typically not going to be able to come out of pocket cash unless I'm really strong. Understand the buyer's cash position before discussing appraisal gap strategies. When you're the buyer's rep, you've got to let them know, look, if we go over this, you're going to have to come out of pocket, or we can try to renegotiate. But now just keep in mind, we've spent $600 for an inspection and $700 for an appraisal. So you're out of pocket $1,300 just going on the whim of this, because the seller does not have to come down. A lot of people think the seller has to come down to appraisal. A lot of sellers think that. So let them know the seller doesn't have to negotiate a penny because of the appraisal. The appraisal is your problem. You're the one borrowing the money. I'm not. That's your banks finding out what they can loan on it. That has nothing to do with me as a seller. Buyer may choose to cover a defined gap, but should understand the risk, of course. Never casually waive or modify protections a buyer does not understand. So don't waive appraisal, don't waive anything that the buyer doesn't fully understand. Strong offers balance competitiveness with responsible risk. Balance your competitiveness with responsible risk. Don't give away the buyer's store just to get this deal done unless the buyer fully understands what they're doing. We had 5 years ago, we had people skipping inspections, right? Oh, I don't need an inspection. I just want this house, because you're one of 30 offers. And some sellers were saying, I don't want an inspection. You'd have sellers back then saying, I won't take an offer with an inspection on it. Crazy. Don't win the offer and lose the client. But I say that's crazy, but that just shows you how much the market means, right? This is a business. This is a market. This is supply and demand. And back then there was no supply and tons of demand. That just tells you that's not crazy. That's business. Sometimes markets go up and down, seller's market, buyer's market, and you got to know what you're in. Right now it's pretty balanced, but leaning a little buyer. So buyer, it's a great time to buy. Guys, if you're not telling people this, if you're letting them talk to you about interest rates, it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to get seller concessions. How many of you guys have sellers who are offering concessions right now? How many of you guys are telling your sellers, we need to be prepared to offer concessions? Rather than lowering price, we need to be prepared to offer concessions, right? That's what you got to be telling them. If you're, especially if you're in the first-time home buyer racket right now, you got to be offering that, because first-time home buyers want everything else, concessions. How do you beat the interest rates right now? Offer them a 2-1. Offer them a 2-1 buy down. Seller will can give you a concession toward your tell them to be prepared for it. I would tell them to even be proactive about it. Offer it. If you're in that first-time home buyer category, especially, be prepared to do that. If you're up in the $700,000 and $800,000, probably not. Well, you instead of concessions, you prefer to price market value. That's fine, but right now, if you've got a first-time home buyer property, they need concessions typically. They're getting approved based on that. A lot of them on a lower interest rate, so they can meet their monthly payment. All right, let's do case study 3 offers. Carolina, do you have a question, or are you raising your hand?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Ask your seller to offer concessions versus lowering the price. I got lost there for a moment.
I'm telling them up front. I'm telling you up front that's the case. Just have them prepared to offer concessions. And if you're really trying to move a property, let people know, we can do that. Paul comes on here sometimes, and other lenders will probably do it too. Paul says, if you use my preferred lender, Paul will give them 1% to buy down their interest rate.
Meaning, right? I'm still a little confused there. Meaning
instead of 5.875 right now, they can get a 4.875 effective interest rate.
The lender's
throwing that in, but the sellers can throw that in too. Sellers can throw in another %, and now they're looking at they're looking at a 3.875.
Okay. So How would that work? I've not heard of that before.
That's like a 2-1. They can do a 2-1 buy down, or they can just do a point up front. You know, if you pay a point up front, they'll take it off your interest rate. You lose that money. The money's gone, but you lose a point off your interest rate. You can buy points.
Okay.
So the seller
Okay.
can, there's certain programs though that the seller has to buy the points for you.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
All right.
That's a
So-
good one.
But other lenders will do that too, not just Paul. But Paul offers it on his. All right. So let's look at these 3 offers. And Eric, yes, we will have questions for you later. That's fine. Q&A. The concession is giving money back. That's like if somebody wants money back. Yes, I'll pay you $525, but I want $10,000 back toward closing costs. It just keeps cash in the buyer's pocket. They're paying more for the house, but they're getting cash back in their pocket. Okay. Offer A, $500,000 FHA, $5,000 EMD, 10-day inspection, 30-day close. That's a pretty standard offer. Offer B, $495,000 conventional, $15,000 EMD, 5-day inspection, seller chooses closing. Or offer C, $505,000 conventional, $10,000 earnest money, 7-day inspection, $10,000 settled seller credit. Which one of these offers is better? There is a right answer. And I shouldn't say that. There is a right answer.
Whatever benefits the seller.
That's the right answer. We don't know yet, but we're about to find out because we're going to look at what the seller wants. Which offer wins? You don't know yet. Excellent answer, Carolina. But you don't know the seller. Now, let's meet the seller. Seller fact 1, they've already bought another home. Seller fact 2, they need this one closed with as little risk as possible. Seller fact 3, they care more about certainty than squeezing out the last $5,000. So now let's look at them. What do we know? They've already bought another home. They need little risk, and they don't care about $5,000. So which one of these now is the better one? Let's assume that it's a well-priced house. It's been reasonably priced. Which is the better offer now?
Fastest closing, even with a lower offer.
Offer B is the best one. Offer B is the best. It's the $495,000. It's the strongest EMD. It's conventional financing, which means they probably have, they didn't say it's 20%, but I'm assuming 10 or 20%. A 5-day inspection. So we'll know if they don't like it, we'll know within 5 days. We can go probably get one of these offers again in 5 days. And the seller chooses a closing date. That's perfect for what they want, right? They don't care about this $5,000. They've got a strong EMD, a serious committed buyer, only 5-day inspection. This is something that a buyer, this is what the buyer's agent called. This is the offer they wrote if they called ahead of time. Would you agree with that? This is probably the perfect offer if they called ahead of time. Because the listing agent said, they said, how strict are they on the price? They're pretty strict, but you can send an offer. What's important to them? And they told them these 3 things. They've already bought another house. They need this one closed, as little risk as possible. They don't want to risk, and they care more about certainty than squeezing out the last 5,000. That's perfect. Okay. Re-rate the offers. Does A still look the same? Does B become more attractive? Does C's higher price compensate for the credit in other terms? Obviously not. The C netted them $495 anyway. But what did C do? C created an appraisal risk by going over 500. It's the highest one, so that's more appraisal risk. They were reasonable convention, a little bit longer inspection period. The seller credit, not that big of a deal. Okay. And they end up netting this anyway. And it brought appraisal into it where it didn't need to be. All right. Would you rather, what would you change if you represented each buyer? A lot of things you can't change. You can't change you would change can't really change the FHA probably, but you can change the closing date to make it whatever the seller chooses. If you can do that, but you probably can't with the FHA, depends on what the timing is and everything else. There's not much you could change, but if you know, that's what you could do. What would you call the listing agent and ask next? What would you call the listing agent and ask?
Could they raise the EMD or shorten the timeline?
Theirs is really good. Yeah, the seller chooses. I would want to clarify this. Obviously, they told me this, that the seller can choose the closing date. My thing would be, let me know when, because I've got a conventional loan I got to do. And obviously choosing the closing date has to be more than time to get the loan done. But after that, we don't care. All right. Seller needs time. List price is $625. This is a seller problem. New construction home won't be ready for 45 days. Buyer advantage flexible lease doesn't need immediate occupancy. Could a later, build the offer around the problem. Could a later closing help? Could post-closing occupancy help? Would the seller accept less money for the right timing? That's a great question. How important is it to your seller? Will they take less money if I do the timing right? If I go out of my way to do something, maybe I lose my rate lock, right? And that's going to cost me money. So I'll close later for the buyer, or as a buyer, my buyer will close later, but they're going to need to relock their rate. And so we're going to need to take $1,500 off or whatever, a concession or whatever we want to do. What protection does your buyer need? And that's where we find out that my buyer needs to be protected because they've got a rate lock that just cost them $1,500 or whatever it is. This is negotiation. Finding value that is not necessarily cash, right? Because we can go, Malvis and I had that deal that we were $25,000 apart on, and maybe Malvis can find something for me that's not cash. Maybe I could find some value for my sellers that's not cash, and we could come somewhere in between. Okay, how to present the offer to the listing agent. Be concise and professional. Lead with what makes the offer attractive. Point out how your terms match the seller's stated priorities. You can only do that if you've talked to them. Make financing strength easy to understand. Please point that out. If you've got a super strong buyer, point it out. I don't care if it's $1.5 million home and every buyer's pretty strong or whatever it is. Still point out I got a super strong buyer. Have the lender available when appropriate. Let the lender tell them it's a super strong buyer. That sounds even better. Do not oversell, exaggerate, or create drama. Make your offer easy to explain to the seller. Okay, make it so easy. Malvis is representing the seller. I'm representing the buyer. Malvis told me exactly what her seller wants. I'm going to make this as easy to explain, easy to love offer if I can, right? If it fits my buyer at all, I'm going to make this exciting. You guys, there's a lot more out there than just price. You can't just look at the price of a home and disqualify your buyer. It's a great home for your buyer. Let them know. If price is a little bit high, what else could they want, right? Make the listing agent want your deal. Professional agents reduce perceived risk. Your reputation, communication, organization can become part of the offer. Look, also, I know if a buyer's agent calls me before submitting the offer and finds out what I know they're going to make the deal work. I know they're going to try their best to make the deal work. They're already trying their best to make the deal work. Once it gets under contract, they're going to try even harder to make the deal work. Okay? Love that. What weakens are an otherwise good offer? Incomplete or sloppy paperwork that is rampant in our society. Missing pre-approval or proof of funds. Unclear terms. Unnecessary addenda. That is true. Somebody gave me defective drywall the other day. Unrealistic timelines. Agent who is difficult to reach. Lender nobody can reach. Promises that don't match the contract. If you're promising something, if you got a great offer for me, put it in writing. Put it in there. Trying to be cute instead of clear. You're not doing anybody any favors with anything besides honest, straightforward talk about what we're trying to get done. Market. How competitive is this property? The offer strategy conversation with your buyer. This is important. So let's get to this. Property's been on the market, and this is so relevant right now. Property's been on the market 3 days. Let's not get cute with low balls and that kind of stuff that they're not going to take. Asking for huge concessions, etc. Let's do that. Let's get cute when it's been on the market 60 days. Okay. When it's been on the market, they're starting to get frustrated. They know that they've got a stale property. You guys have all been in this situation. We all have been in this situation. We've got a stale listing. Just give us something, right? That's the time to take advantage of it, not early. But have that conversation anyway. You never know. What do we know about the seller's priorities? If you know nothing about it, then you're not doing the buyer the best you can. You're not getting the buyer the best terms you can because we can give somewhere to get somewhere else. We can give where we don't care to get something that we do care about. But you don't know that. You can get lucky sometimes because it happened. Your buyer's hot buttons happen to match up perfectly with the seller's hot button. They don't care about your hot button and you don't care about their hot button. That's wonderful. And we get lucky sometimes. But what if we know that ahead of time? What matters most to you and what risks are acceptable for the buyer? Terms. What levers can improve our position? And decision. What is the strongest offer you will still feel good about tomorrow? And you got to be careful about doing that up front because there's got to be room for negotiation. Okay. Don't make the strongest offer you can up front unless you've talked to the listing agent and you know that's exactly what'll work. Okay. But you got to leave yourself somewhere to go in negotiation. Okay. Buyers should understand the trade-offs. The higher price equals potentially higher payment, appraisal exposure. If they just, buyer loves this house, they just really have to have this house, they'll go higher price and they need some other stuff somewhere else. But just let them know what that means to you. The things that you say you don't care about, you better actually not care about them if you're going to give on those things. Seller only cares about the price. Buyer doesn't care as much about the price as the timing or something else. Larger EMD, stronger signal, but more money at stake. Make sure you are on top of that. Do not suggest that to your buyer if you're not going to be on top of every deadline. If you're not going to give them a calendar, give them all that stuff. And if you guys, I showed you the calendar that I did before. You can have AI make you a calendar. It does a great little calendar for you to share with your client, personalizes it to them, bam, and you just send it to them. Shorter inspection, less seller uncertainty, but less buyer time. Less seller uncertainty, but less time for your buyer to actually get what they need to be done. Okay. Obviously they have to know what they're giving. So make sure they understand these trade-offs. Fewer contingencies, cleaner offer, but potentially more buyer risk. Yeah, don't waive contingencies that you're not serious about waiving. Flexible closing, valuable only if it actually solves the seller's problem. Don't just give flexible closing. Don't just promise a closing date if the seller doesn't care. Sometimes you guys do that. You just like, oh, we can close because the lender says. You let the lender tell you how important it was. I can close this loan in 25 days. Don't worry about this, guys. And so you put a 25-day closing, think it's going to make it stronger. It might not actually. The seller doesn't care about that. Okay, so why impose that on your buyer to have to close and the lender to have to close in 25 days if the seller doesn't care? Guys, if you're not talking to the listing agent, I don't know what to tell you. There is no universally best offer structure because no two sellers are the same, right? Question I want agents to remember, what does this seller want? Not sellers in general, what does this seller want? And I think we assume we put our own values on it. They want the most money they can get, just like we would if we sold our house, right? But no, they've already bought a house somewhere. They're retired. It's the last house they're ever going to have, and they're moving into a home, but they can't move into that home. It's not available until whatever. I recently had one who's going into assisted living, but the assisted living is not available till a certain time, and so they couldn't go, right? I also had one recently where they had to move out because they had to move out to get into. They couldn't have that address and get into a certain program they wanted also for assisted living. Different clients. The offer strategy checklist. Call the listing agent. Identify seller hot buttons. Review the comps and market position. Verify buyer financing strength. Determine comfortable price ceiling. Discuss earnest money deposit. You've got to explain that to them. Guys, escrow, the word escrow is used for 3 different things in real estate, and you have to explain all 3 of them and how they're different because buyers get confused, right? They'll say, well, you guys make your escrow yet? Meaning, did you make your earnest money deposit? We have title companies holding things in escrow. We have all kinds of different ways we use that word, and you have to explain it to your buyers how the different ways we use it. Design inspection strategy. Discuss appraisal exposure. Match closing and occupant, and that will be part of your review comps and market position. You're going to talk about appraisal. We can't just go in and ask for $50,000 back and offer $50,000 more than we want to because appraisals. We have to explain that to them. Match closing and occupancy where possible. Evaluate concessions and seller net. Minimize unnecessary complexity and present the offer professionally. You have to explain to them how it affects the seller's net when we ask for certain concessions and things like that. Don't just write the offer your buyer wants to make. Learn enough about the seller to write the offer they actually want to accept. A strategy is better than guessing. Guys, call the listing agent. Talk to them. Find out what the hot buttons are. Eric, you had some questions. That's the end of this. Eric, you have some questions. Anybody has questions can raise their hand, and we'll get to you.
Okay, sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So I have I guess I've been an agent for a while, but I've never been active, so I'm still a rookie in a way. So So I have this, maybe I just give you my scenario. So I have this property that I'm trying to list for a friend.
Mhm.
It needs a lot of work. So I'm trying to get advice. What's the best way? It needs a lot of work, like a lot of work. The AC needs work. The floor needs work. The bathroom needs work. So the entire house needs work. So what is the best strategy for this property? List it with some incentive to fix, or just list it as is? What should I do?
Okay, depends on your seller. It depends on your seller's financial situation. It depends on the actual items that are. Is it an uninhabitable home right now?
It is inhabitable, but needs a lot of work. The bathroom, the flooring,
Okay, okay. When you say a lot of work, everything's dated or everything is falling apart?
everything is dated too. But the carpet is really old, need to come off. The bathroom is falling apart, need to be replaced. The AC is not working, need to be replaced.
Okay.
The kitchen is dated.
Mm-hmm.
The fence outside is bad. So it's livable. They're living there now, but it's just in a bad shape.
Oh, so the seller is living in this right now.
The seller's living in it, but she tried to get out because she cannot afford to maintain the house. She want to get out and sell it.
Malvis is already interested.
Yeah.
Malvis already wants to know where the home is. I think you guys live in the same area, actually. Eric, where's the home?
It's by Orlando, 32822.
Okay. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. I would replace carpets. I would paint if I need to. I would maybe make concessions for some of the other things. As long as the house is in working order, the plumbing is good, the electrical is good, mechanical is good, everything's good. The AC works. You can sell the house as it is. Obviously, they don't have a lot of money, or they wouldn't be living in a house that was like that, right?
Yeah.
They'd be fixing it as they went. So you're going to have to do a lot of concessions. But I would do. You can do flooring concessions. You can do all that. You're going to put pictures out there and say, wait, before you judge, we're giving concessions for appliances and this and this and this and this, right? And they're going to have to do all that. Do they have lots of equity in the home?
They have some.
Okay. That doesn't tell me anything.
Probably like $100K, I think.
Okay. They can either get the money out of it and do it, or they can give concessions for it. Obviously, they don't have a lot of. I'm assuming they don't have a lot of cash because they're living in this house that's got bad carpets and everything else. So they can either pull money out and do that. I would suggest, without knowing it and knowing them, it's hard for me to make a suggestion, but I would say make the very minimal repairs they can make. And, and you can have people do stuff for you and charge you and take it out of the closing too.
Okay.
There's lots of vendors out there will replace your carpets and take it out of closing.
Okay.
I believe we had Angie Rivera on here not too long ago, and she has a company that does that.
Okay. Thank you.
And we may even do that. I'm not sure if Simple Solutions will do that. I'll find out.
Okay.
Yes, actually, they will.
They will. Thank you, Vivian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So they will. Simple Solutions will do that. That's the company that we own, and they're very reasonably priced.
Is there a number I can reach out to them?
Yeah, email me and I'll forward it to Anthony.
Okay. That's pretty much it. It's my first listing. I'm kind of excited. I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Okay. I'm going to put Anthony's email in here now. All right. Any other, what other questions do we have? Eric, can you call her? Okay. Any other questions?
I do.
Yes.
On the FRI commission disbursement authorization,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to give a credit to a buyer,
Mm-hmm.
it goes in there. And does that means that the lender has to make a gift letter or something, or?
No, do that. Talk to the lender first. Don't even ask me. He probably wants it on the HUD, which means we'll do a commission contribution letter that says Florida Realty Investments contributes X amount of their commission from this deal to its buyer, Joe Smith, and that's it. And the rest is payable to whatever.
Okay.
But we do that before closing, so they put it on the closing statement, the settlement statement.
Yes.
But the lender has to be on board. So
Yes,
make sure
yes,
the lender's good with. and the lender will tell you exactly how to do it. But if you just told us you're doing let's say it was a cash deal or whatever, and you're doing that, then we would just do a commission contribution letter. So let us know what the lender wants to see.
Okay,
If
thank
they
you.
want to see it on settlement statement, or if they want, because if we do it, the buyer's going to have a 1099 too, right? We can do it. We can give money to any party in the transaction, but the buyer's going to get, that's income for the buyer. You don't want that. You want it as a credit on settlement statement.
Oh,
Okay.
that's income for the buyer?
It is income for the buyer. You're paying them. I mean, they might be able to do their taxes around something else, but we're going to 1099 that.
Okay.
We need a W9. If we don't do that out of your commission. Do it out of, let us do it out of your commission before we see it.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Do a
understand.
commission contribution letter. Oh, if you're going to do a seller credit, always do a commission contribution letter if you can. If the lender says they can't take anymore and they need to do it outside, then that's fine.
Okay, but you said the commission contribution letter means that the buyer is getting a 1099 from FRI.
No. If we do it out of our commission, if we pay them. If you do it on your CDA, then we're going to pay them. It's going to be from the title company, but it's going to be from us. And we have to account for that money. Just do a commission contribution letter. Ask the lender what they see. They're going to want to see a commission contribution letter probably.
Commission contribution letter. Okay.
Unless they're are they at their limit with what they can take from the lender?
Not
That's
yet.
Not yet. Well, then it should be fine. So talk to the lender and see, can we do a commission? You might want to write that down. Commission contribution letter.
Okay.
No,
And
I mean, otherwise it's like you writing them a check after closing. It's not good. It's not, I mean, it's just more accounting. You can do it. You can't do it. We can do it, but we'd rather not. It's cleaner to do a commission contribution letter.
That's what okay, because you said the buyer will get a 1099 if you write the buyer a check. But
okay, us doing the CDA is like us writing a check. That's still our money that we're distributing. Just like if we give it to you or whomever, that's our money that we're distributing as the broker. It's the broker's money they're distributing. Title companies do this to save you time, save the broker some time of having to do this, but so you get paid quickly because they want you to choose them, right? So title companies do this for you to get you paid at closing. They're not supposed to be in the business of writing to the people. They can to do the credits, but that's sloppy. It's not part of the deal. See if the lender will let you do it. If they still have room that they can take concessions, then they can take this.
A commission contribution. I guess I was lost on your comment when you mentioned that the buyer will get a 1099. Yeah,
They would if we write them a check, we have to.
Right, but if we do a commission contribution letter, then they won't get a 1099.
Correct, because we will never see that commission. That came out. It's like them paying less commission. Never happened. If it's on there, okay.
The buyer won't get it.
What do you mean the buyer? The buyer will get the money. They won't get a 1099. Yeah.
Correct. That's what I misunderstood.
No. Yep. So yes. I'm telling you the way commission contribution letter. The way I'm telling you the commission contribution letter is the way that we don't 1099.
That we do it. Okay.
Yeah. No, we don't. So do the commission contribution letter. We never see it. It's done on the settlement statement as a credit to them. Never comes to Florida Realty Investments.
Got it. Thank
That's
you.
what you want. All right. You bet.
I have a follow-up question real quick. So
Yes.
if the seller is providing the credit or the giving money to the buyer from the selling price, it goes also to the it doesn't come out what I'm trying to say here, I forgot. But it comes out of the final closing document. It's all calculated in there.
No, it'll be on the HUD. It'll give if I'm giving a $2,000 for appliances and $5,000 for flooring, that'll be $7,000. That's a concession I make on the closing statement.
So that'll be credited.
You still pay $300,000 for the house or whatever, and then that $7,000 gets credited back to the buyer at closing.
Okay. All right.
The buyer doesn't have to use it for appliance. They use it for whatever they want. They bring less money to closing. And if they want to live on bad carpets and dated stuff, they can.
Okay.
All right. Chad, did you have a question? Oh, I see your camera's on, so I didn't know if you want to say something. No, it's great. I love your camera on. All right. Any other questions or comments?
It's the first time I haven't been driving during one of these, so I can actually have it on.
Oh, good. Well, it's good to see you. Mel's used to generate the Comanche letter automatically when you include the details in your disbursement. Okay, so she does that automatically anyway, but you need to verify with your lender that you can accept it. Okay, that your buyer can accept it. Thank you, Jeanette. All right. Any other questions, Chad?
I was just thinking about this, and I just wanted to make a note for anybody. On the homeowners insurance side, a lot of carriers are no longer accepting water heaters over 15 years old. So it's just something to keep an eye out for on your inspection reports right out of the gate.
Awesome.
For it.
So you know to ask for that if you're going to do that, because you're going to fall into it later, and then you're going to be out of your inspection period by the time you do your insurance.
Yeah, it might be something to ask the listing agent if they know how old the water heater is, so we can make that in an option in your offer whenever you're putting it in.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you. That is good to know, because I would go right through an inspection period without saying anything about the water heater. Then you can't get the place financed. So you got to get a new, or get the place insured, and you got to yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Michelle. You're muted if you're talking, Michelle.
You got me?
Yes.
I've got a seller who's wanting to rent her house out versus sell it because it's not selling. It is overpriced and they will not come down. Now, I'm going to refer her directly to FRI's Property Management Division to take care of a contract. Now, if I find a renter, is there a compensation for me if I find the renter and give FRI a property to manage?
If you just send it to FRI, you get $400. If you rent it yourself, you get typically the first month's rent or half the first month's rent, whatever you charge, and then you don't get the $400. But they'll still take care of her. But if you rent it yourself, you make more money renting it yourself and then sending it over.
I don't need a special license, or what is my protection for preparing a document for?
You don't prepare the lease. Have them get their own lease. You're going to find a tenant. Okay,
I can find them the tenant, but they get their own lease.
They're responsible for their own lease if they do it that way. If you turn it over to FRI will do the lease. But if you do it that way, they can get their own lease.
So if I turn them over to you for the lease and I get them the renter, I get a referral fee?
Not if you get the rent. Not if you get paid for the rental.
Okay.
So if you rent it, what you can do, you just an exclusive right to lease listing agreement, and you rent it out. Then you give them over for management. Then you don't get the $400. But if you give them over first, and FRI finds the tenant, then they'll give you $400.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So it's pretty much a decision based on whatever you want to do.
Okay, thank you. Can I also mention that if the proprietor or the landlord has to bring their own lease, they also have to provide their own background check?
Yeah, they're gonna do that. Yep. So FRI is not going to do any of that stuff. That you're doing that, and background checks are not too expensive or anything, but you're going to do that unless you have to pull a lot of them. But that's why you take an application fee.
Okay.
Mary Lou, you have a question?
Yes, I have my own home on the market for the 3 weeks. I only have one showing and then one offer, but the offer is very low that I turned down. So I just want to know, is the price or what is the reason it's very slow? And then why I only got one showing? I asked everyone can help me to sell my home. I offer 2.5% commission, and then it's in the gorgeous lake. I have the very gorgeous lake on Lakeview on the Puritans, Devonport. I do some CMA. I think my house should be sold at that price point. I don't know why, what happened, and then why is less selling. And
So-
then I can.
Are you not getting showings?
I only got one.
Okay, one showing.
One sewing after I put on the market on one day, and
and
then
did you,
I
are you
got
getting lots of it? Are you getting lots of exposure? Meaning, are lots of people seeing it? Do you think? Have you done anything? Have you run ads? What? I'm sorry. Let me slow down. What's the price point?
$4.99. The address $4.99
Okay,
thousand,
$4.99. Okay.
and then the address is 2093 on the next side on the Providence, Davenport.
Okay, you better put that in the chat. The
Oh yeah,
address.
yeah. I put on the chat. I put on the chat.
Okay. So I'm assuming you're getting plenty of exposure with this, which means that it's priced too high. Or your pictures are terrible. And-
I was just gonna say, I did some virtual staging, and all of a sudden my showings just shot up.
Yep. Look at doing some virtual stagings.
Mhm.
Did you use AI, Vivian? What'd you use for that?
Yeah, I use it.
My friend runs a company that does it, and so she did it for me.
Okay.
Space AI. I can put the link in there for you guys.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
But-
Maybe I put my on the. Yeah, let me.
I would just try it, Mary Lou. I would just try it with regular AI. Put your pictures in there and have them put some stuff in there. Light up, if you got the kind of thing. If you've got a fireplace, light a fire in there. That kind of thing. And maybe it'll even make you a video of tell them you want families in there and you want the bathroom lit up with candles and stuff like that. And they might even make you a video. The videos are great nowadays with all that stuff in them. They're just some really nice looking stuff.
Yeah, I think I have a really gorgeous lake view.
Well,
Oh,
play that up too.
Yeah, I put on the listing on the first sentence also. Because there's no CDD and then lower, it's very lower HOA fee, and then I put this feature on the top of the listing, and but I just curious.
Try some virtual staging, and you might have a price issue, even though you think you don't, or you just have to be patient. But you're not getting showings. That's the funnel. This is the funnel training that I did a couple of weeks ago. You're right at the top of the funnel. You're not getting showings, which is typically price, or you need to repackage the listing somehow. If
Yeah.
you're sure that the price is good, or
Woody?
more importantly, you're unwilling to drop. Like Michelle's client a second ago, she said it's too high and they won't drop. That's okay. You know what? My car is for sale too, but I probably want more than anyone would offer me for it because I like it. So I'm not going to sell it. That's okay. Just it's not great as a realtor that they wasted your time with that, but you allowed it, and that's okay. You might have, sometimes you take a high listing and you get lucky. So you never know. But all right, there's your address. So I think you need to repackage the property. If you're not willing to come down on price, which you might not yet be, you might need to repackage the property. And that's definitely what I would tell you.
Yeah.
One of those two things has to move. You got to get interest in your property. The people have got to see value in it. They're not seeing value in it from a distance. They're not seeing value. They're not seeing $4.99 in it from the photos. So people in that price range aren't seeing something that's better than other things they're seeing in that price range. So what you're going to have to do is make it look better. You're not even getting people in the door is the problem. So you need to make it look better to where they'll come out and see it. Okay.
Is any way because I cannot move out the furniture. I think I put the furniture on it, and then I said all the furniture is included. So do you think that we have for fast sell more
What, to include furniture? No.
Yeah.
No, people don't want furniture typically.
Okay.
Unless you're in Airbnb place or something. Otherwise, people don't want furniture.
So it means I need to repair the picture or do some more
Well, it's
advertising?
okay if there's furniture in your pictures, assuming that they're okay. I haven't looked up your address yet, but if you want, I'll take a look at it and tell you what I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you,
welcome.
everyone. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for helping. Eric, you have a question? Eric, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Sorry, yeah, I'm on mute. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, it's just a follow-up question about the pricing, how to price properly. So what is the best way to, how do you price? Is it just a CMA or there's some other things you got to do to price?
Well, it's a CMA, and then you compare it to what's going on in the market. I mean, it depends on what's going on in your market. Are there 3 other homes like this for sale within a half mile or a quarter mile? And what are their prices, and what are they offering, and what is their proposition compared to yours? Like we just talked about with Mary, she's in the $499 price range. People are not seeing enough value in her pictures to think that $499 is a good deal. So, which means they're seeing other things for $499 that look better to them.
Okay.
So, and it might not be better. It just might be not presented how they want to see it. Or other ones are being presented better. So all that is important, but pricing it, and that's why getting good professional pictures and stuff is well worth the money. In this market, you have to. You have to. The top of that funnel is not moving. That's what Mary's got. The very top of the funnel, nothing's getting. Her bottleneck is right at the top, which means people aren't seeing value. They're not coming to look at the home. She's probably getting decent exposure, but she's not getting. And I don't want to get into all that, but she's not getting showings. So, and her problem is probably not exposure. She's only got 1 showing. It's other stuff.
Should you consider off market if there was another one, just similar house that went off market? I guess probably wasn't sold. I don't know if it was sold or not. Would you list
Well,
that?
if it's a similar house and it went off market not being sold, then the price was probably too high.
Probably was too high. Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
you don't know what it looks like. It could be worse. You know,
Maybe.
as bad as you described this one, that one could be worse. Vivian.
I mean, I guess because I have experience, because I've done it myself twice. I sold one house on a contract for deed, and I just sold mine with holding the note. So if you have equity, use that to your advantage.
Yep.
If you're not needing to replace it, obviously.
What a great example of times that you want to call a listing agent and see if the seller will do anything, if we can make something else work, right? That's great. Thank you.
I didn't need lenders interfering and dinging me on a 17-year-old roof that is, by the way, in perfect condition and only got replaced 17 years ago for an insurance renewal, not because there was damage or a claim.
Right. Awesome. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, guys. I appreciate you guys all coming. We have an inspector coming next week. Some really cool stuff on that. And that's it. That's all I want to talk about. I will talk to you guys next week. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Go get them. You guys are doing great. Numbers are great. You guys keep them coming.
Thanks, Ryan.
The summer's died down, but you guys are keeping them coming. Eric, if you need me to look at the pricing on that, let me know.
Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. You guys have a good one.